Elon Musk has experienced threats and intimidation from a variety of sources, including powerful political figures and pointless online trolls. But out of all the threats at the mall, his most recent one must be the most terrifying. A Chinese threat. You heard that right, don't you? After Elon turned to Twitter to provide his plan to end the ongoing conflict between Russia, a nuclear superpower, and pro-Western Ukraine, the Chinese warned him. Welcome back to another exciting video from Informative Scoop. Today's video is about Xi Jinping just threatened Elon Musk with this. Before we start the video, please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon. You're at the right place if you're wondering what this has to do with China. Hold on as we investigate this conflict and look for potential solutions. For the misinformed Russian president, we must first provide some background information about the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. This year's conflict with Ukraine began in February under Vladimir Putin. Putin's objective was uncomplicated: to prevent Ukraine from joining the Western Alliance of NATO or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. He sought to overthrow the country's incumbent administration. While since the start of World War II in 1940, this war has been the largest in Europe. This invasion is sometimes referred to as a special military operation by Putin and his forces. Knowing the fundamentals of the entire narrative, let's examine Elon's suggestion for achieving peace among the opposing parties. Musk outlined a few ideas in a tweet that, in his view, were sufficient to ease tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Elon's initial suggestion was to hold fresh elections in the Ukrainian territories that Russia had annexed and for the country as a whole. The second argument alluded to the Crimea Peninsula region joining Russia rather than Ukraine. The third point demanded that the government guarantee water delivery to the Crimea region, while the fourth point urged Ukraine to maintain its neutrality and not join NATO. Even if the majority of these points appear to support the Russian government, the first one doesn't seem right. The Russian government is concerned because, despite its desire to formally annex the Crimea region and prevent Ukraine from joining NATO, Elon Musk's proposal for democratic elections in the region has alarmed them. Crimea was taken over and annexed in February of this year when Putin installed a pro-Russian administration there. However, the prospect of a free election not only alarmed Putin but also alarmed one of Russia's most steadfast allies. Since the creation of the Russian Federation in 1991, China, and Russia have been strategic allies. By 2020, this collaboration will still be going strong. Both nations aim to increase their commerce to a staggering $200 billion. Elon endangered the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP for short, when he suggested holding free votes in contentious areas like Crimea. You know, the CCP is in charge of a few disputed areas as well, including Taiwan and Zhejiang. The CCP is also notorious for engaging in brutal practices like mass surveillance and ethnic cleansing in these. The Chinese Communist Party perceived Elon's suggestion that the residents of Crimea be granted the right to vote as a direct threat. Soon after Elon tweeted his peace proposals, Hu Jin, the former chief editor of the Chinese Communist Party's tabloid The Global Times, reacted. Elon Musk has revealed his personality too much, according to Hu Jin, who took to Twitter to vent his annoyance and caution Elon. The statement made by Xi Jin that Elon will be given a lesson, nevertheless, is what makes his tweet more important. However, relations between Elon Musk and the Chinese Communist Party weren't always this tense. In fact, until last year, he was a well-liked figure in China. Elon used to routinely tweet praise for China's economic success while lamenting the use's entitlement culture and culture of complacency. In reality, the CCP assisted Elon in establishing the largest electric car company in the world, Tesla, in China, given that the Chinese government was a strong proponent of the notion and even provided incentives for both EV makers and buyers. For a firm like Tesla to invest in the nation makes sense. To create batteries in cars, Tesla established its first gigafactory in Shanghai in 2019. By 2020, the business had produced more than 140,000 Model 3 cars in the nation. Even more, reportedly, the Chinese government assisted Tesla by contributing more than $500 million to the initial construction of the gigafactory. Where exactly did everything go wrong for Elon in his relationship with them, then? If it isn't already clear, to understand it, we also need to comprehend how the CCP functions. The Chinese Communist Party enjoys exercising power over its citizens. Additionally, they enjoy having leverage over any of their business associates, forcing foreign automakers into a 50-over-50 joint venture with another Chinese company, or the Chinese government is one of the ways the CCP maintains control over them. Tesla was in, though, as we now understand. Elon Musk ensured that he had complete control over the business in China and forbade any other partners from holding any ownership interests. The CCP was aware that this was a risk at the time, but they had to take it to demonstrate to the rest of the world that the nation was a safe location for investments. However, as time passed, other Chinese EV producers like NIO Automobiles began to overtake Tesla and even surpass the US. The company's situation was made worse in 2021 when ties between the USA and China hit an all-time low. Presidents Joe Biden of the United States and Jinping of China are embroiled in a bitter dispute over their respective countries' divergent perspectives on security, economics, technology, and ideological concerns. The CCP soon concluded that having Tesla and Elon on board was detrimental to them. As predicted, the state-owned media outlets in China began to disseminate rumors that the US government was spying on Chinese citizens using the software in Tesla vehicles. Articles about Tesla vehicles having brake and battery problems also began to proliferate in Chinese newspapers. The Chinese media sensationalized Tesla's recall of vehicles even though there was no concrete proof to support these accusations, and the so-called recalls were just over the air. All of these led to a nationwide decline for Tesla. The manufacturer of the once status symbol automobiles was now anything but that. But this wasn't everything. China decided to stand by its partner and refused to label the invasion of Ukraine a war when hostilities started in February 2022. When Ukraine's internet connection was cut off, they turned to Elon and asked him to install Starlink there, a satellite internet constellation run from space. To no one's surprise, Elon consented and gave Ukraine over 25,000 Starlink satellites to get the nation online. The CCP became even more incensed as a result, prompting them to ask for guarantees. Starlink would not be sold in China by Musk if Starlink were ever implemented in the nation. Additionally, it would enable residents to get around the nation's internet restrictions. As a result, the CCP had also harshly cautioned Elon not to import the satellites. Please like the video before we explore whether the intimidation from the CCP has been nothing more than phony threats. After that, let's go on. Elon Musk was about to face a threat as a result of all these difficulties escalating the conflict between him and the Chinese government. Though that wasn't the first time the CCP had publicly threatened powerful individuals. Anyone who dared to defy this is known to be threatened and intimidated by the CCP. When Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the US House and a representative of China's foreign ministry, visited Taiwan in August of this year, this was very evident. Pelosi's journey to Taiwan, which China claims is its own, according to Julie Zhang. Despite the warnings of intimidation, the US government resisted giving in, and Nancy Pelosi eventually finished her tour of the nation without any of the threats materializing. But we also need to take into account how Pelosi's situation differs from Elon's. Nancy Pelosi had no personal or professional ties to either China or the CCP, so she had nothing to lose by defying the threats made by the government. For Elle, this isn't the same. As we previously discussed, more than 20% of Tesla's revenue comes from its Gigafactory in Shanghai. Tesla's manufacturing strategy now revolves around the Gigafactory, which also handles the bulk of its exports to Europe. Going against the Chinese government might have major repercussions for us, including the factory being shut down and his companies being banned from them. Recently published papers by Chinese military specialists have suggested that the government devised means of deactivating or destroying Starlink satellites. Before now, the US had accused China of violating international trade and stealing intellectual property. Because of these accusations, a legislative estimate in the US put the annual cost of intellectual property theft by China between $225 and $600 billion. It is reasonable to assume that China must have stolen vital knowledge from businesses like Tesla to support domestic automakers. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more exciting content.